so Message Center announcements for April. As I was going through this, there was a lot of stuff happening in Teams. So you're going to see this is going to be a Teams heavy set of announcements that have come through. So I'm going to get through some of them. So the first one, and we're just going to jump into all the team stuff right away, is, and if you haven't heard this one, this has been out on the socials a lot, the preview of the new Microsoft Teams Windows client. And this is an opportunity for you as individuals, especially on the IT side of things, to be able to preview the new version. And when I'm talking about the new version, it's really it's going to look very similar to the current version of it, but it's all going to be under the hood. So what they did is they literally started from scratch with a new code base. And for those who are geeks, there's actually an architectural blog post out on the Teams blog site that talks about the underlying structure, where we went from Electron to React from the UI side of things. In the underbase, the foundation is all Web View 2. All of that really means is install apps are going to go a lot faster. Launching the app is going to go a lot faster. Even jumping between chats and channels, you're going to see a significant increase in the speed between things. It's also, and you're going to love these parts, consume 50% less memory and take up 70% less disk space than the previous version of it. I think those are really great additions to everything that we've been doing as far as feature sets. But again, this is not something that everybody is going to see right away. So when you go in, and if you're going to do this, this is through the Teams preview, and you have the ability to be able to do that per individuals, right? So you can say this group can get it. You're not going to see a lot of changes. But what you're going to get is, for those people who have this set up, you're going to get a little toggle to say, go to new Teams. When they do that, it's going to flip to the new experience. It's not 100% feature parity with the current version. It's in public preview for a reason, right? It's not generally available, so don't provide feedback saying, hey, I don't see this yet, right? Those types of things, they know they're working on it. They're going to have feature parity before it becomes generally available, which, by the way, we don't know when and what that is. But understand, this is a great opportunity to be able to preview it before you get it, and make sure everybody is understanding that's going on. So keep this one in mind. This is already out. You can do this. Admins can toggle for internal users to test and work through this. So keep that in mind. All right. Thank you, Michelle, for throwing that link out there. That is the big blog post that kind of talked about the introduction, and this was about 2 weeks ago when that came out. So. And already we have Britt is saying, can confirm much faster, less resource intensive. I think you guys are going to enjoy it when you have the new version out. All right, keeping on the whole Teams theme, we do have some new layouts available for, if you're familiar with, and especially in Teams, and if you have webinars or if you have large meetings, and this is really the big thing, is that large meeting piece. So for instance, if you go into a large meeting, you go over 1,000 users, then it goes into view only mode. And in the past, it was very, very limited as far as what they saw or could see. So what's going to happen is that moving forward with this one starting here in late April to early May, is once it hits that meeting capacity, that's at around 1,000 at this point, then it's going to move from a single screen. So you're going to see up to 9 videos if there are 9 videos on that particular meeting, right? In a 3x3, or you'll see like the bottom image you see, it's side by side. So right, the content on one side and then the person speaking on the other. So you're going to have a little bit more of an option to be able to change the views. Again, in that view only mode, right? So make sure, let people know that that's the case if you have any of these types of events happening or meetings happening. All right. This one actually covers Teams, MS365 apps, and Office for apps for collaborative meeting notes. And this is really taking a couple different types of services that Microsoft provides and making them available through that whole before, during, and after idea of a Teams meeting, right? So starting here in preview, right, coming here at the end of the month and going into mid-May, you'll be able to go into preview mode for this. And then standard, so it's going to be generally available starting in late May to late June. So think about this again, before, during, and after. So beforehand, you may want to set up an agenda. During, you might want to take meeting notes, and then afterwards, you want to set up follow-up tasks, right? So just to make the whole collaborative piece of the meeting a little bit more effective, right? So this is a combination of things of using Teams for your meetings, using Loop, if you have that available for your organization, Planner and To-Do, right, in office.com, and then OneDrive, all together working to be able to bring this particular solution to you guys. So basically, you have the ability, so the meeting organizer has this ability to start that, to get that meeting going, and then they can put an agenda in there. That's where Loop starts to be brought into that mix. Then during that meeting, you can be collaborative across the board for everybody to be able to add notes into that loop. And then when somebody's called out, like an app mentioned, then there's probably going to be a task assigned to that person then through Planner or To-Do app, right? So it gives you a lot of these capabilities that it's right there in that meeting, one spot, so that then you can then collaborate and work. And then Loop is available anywhere, right? So then you can embed it into a OneNote eventually that's coming up, or you can do it in Outlook, or you can do it someplace else, right? That way you have access to that content no matter what. Same thing with Planner and To-Do. It's available after the fact. So again, it's kind of like the next evolution of your Teams meetings. So keep that one on, and then make sure you notify your users on these changes as they're coming out. Another thing in Teams, we'll have live captions, usability improvements. In the usability improvements, there's a public preview coming out here first in May, then standard, and then GCC, followed by GCC H and DoD in May and June. So really think about it is that if you're having anybody utilizing live captions in meeting, right? You can do that right now. You have live captions, you can go into it, but think about being able to do things like being able to change the spoken language, right? You can change what the caption language is if you have Teams Premium, keep that in mind. And then you can adjust the colors, even the height and position and font. That doesn't require premium. You should be able to do it. That's a big change for some people to be able to do it because it wasn't maybe not big enough for people, right? So you have that ability to be able to make those changes. You're going to see that in the more options, language, speech, turn on live, and then there's some settings that are going to be a part of that. So make sure as this is being rolled out, tested during the public preview, but then notify your end users as that's coming out. All right, this is a premium feature. This one coming out, this is an intelligent meeting recap. There's some added features that are coming to this. And I don't know, I mean, I've played around with a little bit of this and I haven't seen this quite yet. I'm really excited about some of these features, especially when it comes to if I can't make a meeting, I may want to be able to just get a synopsis of what that meeting was about. That's some of the features that are coming out with this, right? So starting target and preview here in late April, early May, standard mid-May to late May. So that's our general availability at that point. It's all AI powered. As you noticed, a lot of that stuff is happening from Microsoft's perspective. We're adding this everywhere. There's going to be a recap tab within the Teams calendar and the chat apps to be able to recap what happened. And in there, you're going to get, you're going to be able to browse that recording. Again, if there is a recording and transcript a part of it, that's part of this process. You can try by speaker. So when did somebody speak? What topics did they talk about? It's even going to give me AI suggested notes so I can kind of read through and see what was talked about during that event. Suggested tasks or even app mentions, it allows me to be able to quickly get through that information as opposed to having to sit and watch the whole hour-long meeting. I can get a synopsis, get what I need, go to the right spot and hear what that discussion was, and then being able to recap after that and use that. Again, it's for Teams premium users, and it has to have the transcription and recording enabled for this stuff to be available for those with premium license. Make sure you notify your users of these changes.
Hey, Don,
right.
I have a question in the chat. Before we go 2 slides back to...
I will.
the collaborative meeting notes, and I'm even curious what your take
collaborative
is
meeting.
here. If assigning tasks within a meeting, what plan will those tasks be added to? So great question, Sam.
That's an awesome question. We don't know yet, but I'm assuming first it's going to go actually into the to-do planner, or the app inside Teams is probably going to be your to-do, because you probably don't have planners necessarily set up. That's my guess. Again, we haven't played with it, unless you've gotten your hands on it, Michelle. I haven't seen anything specifically with that.
You know, all I know, and I haven't played with it, but they'll be notified and synced to planner, and I think maybe it will be what plan do you want to use?
Yeah, and that might be the case. Absolutely. And Rachel is asking, well, is it going to be available for GCC? I haven't seen anything as far as when it's going to be available for GCC. The message post didn't say anything. But I think, again, a lot of the things with the GCC side of things, it's because of privacy and that really keeping control of the data. That's important. So that's to be seen when that's going to come out. So sorry, we don't have a good answer on that, Rachel, yet. All right, so meeting recap, we talked about that. Speaker view. So I hate to say it, but a lot of our competitors from a conferencing side of things kind of add the feature, and we're finally getting up to it. So think of it as active speaker view. With this coming out here and targeted in public preview here in April, standard in early May and mid-May, and GCCH and DOT here or late May into mid-June. So it's really about who is speaking at that time. And so it's that active speaker view that you can then switch to. And it's going to be rendered, whoever's speaking actively at that point is going to be rendered at a higher resolution, 16.9 tiles. You're going to be able to go into the view switcher to be able to go to active speaker mode, basically, to be able to have this on. It's not on by default, but users can then do that as they're in that meeting and they need to have more focus on that speaker for that. Make sure you notify your users as these changes are occurring. All right, another thing that's happening here, specifically wrapped around webinars. For those people who are utilizing the webinar template within Teams, there's an added feature happening that has some Teams Premium in it, but not 100% Teams Premium in it. So here in mid-April, and we should start seeing this here pretty quickly, the reminder emails for webinars. So basically, you get a webinar set up, you send out that initial email to people, and those people come in and then register. So what this is going to do is anybody who's registered for the event, by default, an hour before the event, it's going to send out a reminder of this event and have a join button for them. Now, if your user or your organizer has Teams Premium, they can do things like edit the email itself and edit when it gets sent out. So if I wanted it to go 5 minutes before as that reminder beforehand, I could do that, but I have to have the Teams Premium license. Otherwise, by default, everybody else gets it for an hour ahead of time. And then again, that organizer, if they have Teams Premium, can customize the email that's going to be sent out. Otherwise, it's going to be a generic email with the necessary information in it. It's basically going to be a rehash as far as what you have as a registration page. But if you are utilizing webinars, please notify your users of this change as it's coming up here shortly. All right, so I did want to do this before I got into this section specifically because I've actually been playing around with this a little bit. And let me apply this. And maybe it's going to work and maybe it's not. All right, there we go. All right, so avatars are available for public preview. This gives you guys the ability to be able to go in and set up an avatar. And really, why do I even need an avatar? It's really about taking a break from the screen. Or, I hate to say it, I've done it a couple of times where I still wanted to have a presence, but not necessarily have my physical presence, right? So maybe I hadn't gotten ready for the day yet, and I want to make sure things are going right. So, but you can create this. This is utilizing a app called the Avatar app, which admins control as far as allowing it to happen or not. By the way, targeted and public preview are out on now, and you can use it. Standard rolling out here in May. No idea about GCC and the government clouds at this point. But things you can do is you can go ahead and change the face. You can change accessories. You can change wardrobe. You have a lot of different options when it comes to creating your avatar, and that's in the Avatar app. And then you can create up to 3, right? So I could have 3 different ones depending on the types of meetings that I have. And then I can join when I'm joining the meeting. It's in that join window, and it's also in here if I go into the more button, right? Other things that you can do is you have the ability to be able to do some different reactions that you can pre-program. And I'm not going to
they want to see your avatar dab. They want to see your dab.
No, I was not going to do that one. That's the exact one I wasn't going to do. But I'll do the face plant for sure.
We can all
do the dab. There we go. There's the dab. All right. So anyways, I mean, those are the options that you have wrapped around Avatar. I actually did a quick update on mine just because mine didn't look as good as I wanted to. But I'm going to get out of that and get back into my actual face here. All right, so that's the Avatar side of things. And that is, again, rolling out here now for public preview and targeted, and then standard rolling out here in May. I do have something that's not Teams meeting related. Teams call queue and auto attendant. Now, this is a big deal for those who have Microsoft Teams phone deployed in using call queue and auto attendance within that. There's a preview happening here soon, April going into early May, and then being released here in May going into June, where you can actually have users help configure some parts of the call queue and auto attendant. The way they're going to set this up is there's going to be a new area within Teams admin called the voice application policy area, where you can configure what they are able to do with these, right? So with the call queue and auto attendant. Now, it's not all the capabilities, but it's some of the capabilities. And then you add that user to the policy, and you add the user into the call queue or auto attendant you want them to be able to manage. So there's a couple different parts about that, right? Make sure you let your end users, especially those who are going to end up doing this, know about this change as it happens and you're testing it out. All right. I do have 2 things that are not Teams related. I have a Power BI. It's kind of a lesser known one, but it's actually good for those who are utilizing Power BI workspaces and the ability to be able to pin a workspace so that you can find it later on, especially if you're using a lot of different workspaces, right? This is already available. So if you're using Power BI services, you should be able to see that pretty quickly here. And then Exchange Online is just the new capability to be able to do more things with messages that end users report, either through the add-in in Outlook, through office.com, or any way that you have that set up. You can go into the submissions and then you can take a look at it. You can do a much better job filtering, sorting, and setting up ranges when these come in. That shows reported things, even phishing simulations, so you can actually do it by type, right? That's already happening. Let your admins know, or I should say happening here mid-April, late April. Let your admins know that's happening so they know what's going on. Couple quick mentions. I did want to do the old talk to things like changes to normalization in Teams phone is a big one. I want to make sure I call that one out. Offline meetings, and this is another one. This is going to be a change as far as how things work, specifically wrapped around when you create a meeting within Teams. Right, there's going to be a toggle that's going to be added that allows you to make this offline so it doesn't make it an online virtual component, where by default, that's all you can do within Teams, right, is make a Teams meeting, which is virtual, right? So there's going to be a change in that starting here late May, early June for the government clouds, okay? So keep that one in mind, and e-discovery for Microsoft Loop components, which I know that my compliance people have been wanting for quite a while. Then in the updated messages, just a couple ones that have been changing, just to make sure you understand where these are happening. And then finally, the only one that from an admin action perspective that was added was this one down here, the IT admin policy for new webinar experience in Teams. There's going to be a change happening around May 2nd. Make sure that you read this and understand exactly what's happening. And it gives you more details as far as what to do. As far as the new meeting experience, especially for webinars. Again, if you're using webinars, this is important for you. All right. Whew. Well, that was a lot. Sorry. Thank you. I hope you got a lot of good information. I will go through and see if there's any things that I need to. Oh, yeah. I see somebody was actually calling me out to do the dab. All right, fine, Chris. You did it. I did it. You got it. Okay. Other than that, I don't have anything else. Michelle?
Yeah, I don't either. I know that we are